And we got a close-up of Barry's chest.
Well, what more can people want?
This is Human Factors Cast After Dark. Hi, everybody. Hello. Oh, man. I can't believe we are here once again.
We're back to normal time as well, which is a bit...
Yeah.
It's a bit jarring.
Well, we got a show for you.
Have we? I've got no idea, because as I was saying to you just before, in the pre-show, I've literally ran in from a meeting that was basically half an hour away, and came in just in time to be able to switch everything on and get everything up and running. I don't even know what the story is tonight. That's not true. I do actually know what the story is, because I think I read it earlier in the day, but I haven't been in the notes yet. So I'm just about to go to them and see where we're at.
Yes, go take a look through the notes. There's I will warn you. There's like one it came from that just... Oh darn. Well, here's what happened. Here's what happened there. I flipped off my VPN. That's what happened.
Okay, so that's all right. That's not a drama.
Yeah. Are you frozen on your end, or is it just my end?
I'm not frozen on my end.
Okay.
Am I frozen for you?
Yeah, hold on.
In an amusing way?
Kind of. No, we're good. All right. I just need to cog you off and on. Yeah, no, I killed my VPN. I meant to do it right before we went live. Oops.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So there's one it came from that elicited a visceral reaction from me.
Ooh.
Because I don't want to say it yet. But there's one in there. It's the first one. If you want to.
Well, yeah, I was just looking at it.
Look ahead.
Why? That's just... I don't even know.
Hey, really quick, if you are a Patreon, we have posted in our Discord on our Patreon only channel a link for the show notes today. So if you have any thoughts and opinions, somebody has been going in every week and changing my name. So last week it was Nick Testosterone, and this week we got Nick Romancer, and they in parentheses put Necromancer, which I think is actually pretty cool. I think that one's a really cool one. I like that one, Necromancer. No fun names for Barry, though.
I said nobody's changed my name, which is probably for the best, maybe? I don't know. Right.
And I can't tell who did it. It was anonymous. So anyway, yeah, no, if you are a Patreon and you want to dial in or leave us a voicemail, you are free to do that. We've posted links.
I've got to say, I was not annoyed, but... because the fact that I wasn't on the show last week, but I was watching because I've got nothing better to do. I was chilling out in my in the cabin that we're in, and everyone else had gone to, because actually Amanda was ill, so she was in the bedroom, and so I was just sat down there chilling with a glass of wine. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna pop in, and so I did, and then I realized I could have gone in and sabotaged the show notes in massive ways,
could have,
and or just funny ways. And I completely, because I didn't take a laptop with me or anything, I completely didn't even think about that opportunity.
See, and this is where I thought you last week were the one that was messing with the show notes, calling me Nick Testosterone.
No, it wasn't me. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
No, so, why would you automatically assume I would do something like that?
Because you weren't on the show, and because you just admitted that you would have messed with the show notes had you thought about it earlier.
But it wasn't. But I'm going to say it was. I almost felt like I was doing a usability review of the show, like watching it from the other side of the screen.
Hold up. Does the show hold up?
Oh, sorry.
From that side?
I thought you told me to hold up. I thought you were.
No. Does the show hold up from that side?
Well, it was all right. I don't. The host is a bit weird, I've got to be honest, but it was fine. Blake's not too bad. He's learning how to do it. He's getting that co-host vibe sort of. No, I think it's really cool. It does it does hold up really well. Like I said, there was some really, what I liked was some neat things being able to see. So like when you did the sharing of a link and stuff like that, and seeing how that rippled through the different platforms, because I was on YouTube for most of it, but then looked on a couple of the other ones as well, to like LinkedIn and see how it was going, Facebook to see how it was coming out. Yeah, so that.
Oh, you mean like one of these? If you want to buy an It Depends sticker to support the show,
do that. Yeah, exactly that. So, so it was really cool to see that sort of stuff, and it was just quite. It's just a shame I couldn't stay for the whole show because I was falling asleep. Nothing to do with the show content. It was just the fact that it was late.
Sure.
And I did lots of swimming.
You can tell us we're bored. We're friends.
Well, that's true. But no, it was actually, I thought it was a really cool, because it was a cool topic as well, to be able to sort of dive into. But yeah, so that was an interesting experience. Yes, because that's what because that's right, because I was taking screenshots and send them to you, wasn't I? Like,
yes, you were.
Look at this.
Look at how this goes. No, that's great. Yeah. Wait, we never previewed the story tonight. I just realized. So and I'm getting sidetracked here. So story tonight. Brain compaces. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Well,
Depends.
They might pose a threat to your mental privacy.
Fair enough. It's true.
That's it. That's the story.
Right. I think it's it's something we've talked about before, but I think it's interesting that now that you can tell that this technology is now starting to get that bit more serious, because now we're talking about the big things.
Do you remember when we talked about this last? Because I was looking through our previous shows, because I know that you and I have had the conversation about this.
Yeah.
And I was looking through the past episodes, and I could not remember which episode it was on.
No, I can't remember. It must have been about a year ago, because I think it was one of my earlier ones.
So towards the end of every show, I put in the, if you like this episode, I encourage you to go listen to. That's why I was looking for another one, and I couldn't find anything that was like the last one that I saw, or the most recent, I should say, was episode 205. And I was looking, I was like, where is, because you came on in about what, September 21?
Yeah, I guess it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, September, October 21.
So I came to fill in one episode.
Yeah, and you're still here. So
not leaving.
The stories since that, right, was I think we did remote working fostering innovation was the first one. I think that was it. Does that sound right?
I can't remember. Really can't
remember.
Oh
no, Barry Kirby. Okay, no, you're here October 8th. There it is. So AR assisting in space, transforming exoskeletons, AI improving learning, remote working fostering innovation, trusting computers over doctors' expertise, making self-driving cars more human-friendly, understand how will cars of the future understand passengers, Mars mission doomed from the start, improving our relationship with robots through dance, COVID changing the way we study behavior, are virtual conferences more inclusive, will future humans live their entire lives in the metaverse? That might have been it.
Maybe. Was it a one?
Because that was Jan 21 of last year.
Because I remember making the quip, because it was about Elon Musk's drive to do the Brain HCI stuff. Because I remember making the quip around, I think if anybody else was doing it, I'd be down with it, but Elon being inside my head freaks me out.
Yeah, I remember that exact thing. And I don't remember what episode it was from, because the next one is operating 130 drones simultaneously, paraplegics walking with assistance from technology. Like all these, I feel like it could have come up, but I just don't remember which one it was in. If you are a Human Factors Cast super fan and remember,
Yeah, can you tell us what we've done, please?
look, I have a pretty good internal catalog in my brain of everything that we've done, but sometimes it just fails me, like moments like this. And I don't even know, like searching for it, like
How would you?
I don't like what would you have said? Do you have some words that you might have said that I can run against like our transcripts?
Okay. I would BHCI, you need brain human computer interface, Elon Musk.
So okay, so here's so we've definitely talked about Neuralink twice on the show. We had 137 and 179, and those were both before you were here. The one that's coming up, if I type in Elon, is 217, which was the humanoid robots. And
yeah, that was Blake, wasn't it? That's not me.
Oh yeah, no, that was Blake too. That was in September 21, so that was the last one I think Blake was on before you came in. And yeah, so I'm not finding anything for Elon.
Weird.
I wonder if I search brain computer.
Yeah, search for brain and Barry Kirby. You're not going to get much. I can mock myself. It's fine.
So there's culture affecting HCI. Did we really talk about brain computer interfaces in that? Chatbots, trust computers. Yeah, I don't know. It's a complete black box for me. I don't know, man. Anyway, here we are.
Right, what we got? We've got 20 minutes. That's cool. Let's have a quick.
Oh, cool. Getting some comments in there. Nice.
In where?
In our show notes.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, somebody's added that. Alex has added. I might move Alex's comment to into
discussion.
Yeah.
You know how to do that.
I'm. Give me a minute. Gosh.
Okay.
We add that in as a.
Oh, okay. I see what you did.
Why did you not want me to do it that way?
No. That's fine.
Tell me off if you want. That's fine.
No. That's all good. That's all good. No. Speaking of social thoughts, I've thought about automating this where we, since we have the show notes generator, and this is something on my list, but to automate the social thoughts, send it out. Hey, this is the topic for tonight. Let us know your thoughts. HFC social thoughts.
I was going to raise a potential idea, which makes your life slightly harder, but might get us. Well, it does. So the story gets chosen for me Thursday morning, right? And so
the polls close Thursday morning. Yes.
Yeah. So therefore, we have this mad rush. What would be really neat is if the polls could close on Wednesday, because then we could have a push on this is the story tomorrow, and actually have a 24-hour push of getting social thought in, and then that would give more people time to respond. Because when I'm putting it out, so basically for me in the evening,
right? People are already got their wine.
People have already got the wine and don't have, it's too late in the day for us to get comment. So I wondered whether we could push it forward a bit.
Yeah.
And it might not work. It might not, people might just not want to give social thoughts, which I'd be a bit disappointed with. But it might just give us that bit more inclusiveness, opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So food for thought.
Yeah, no, I need to think about it because we've recently changed. So the way in which we did the polling used to be launch on Friday, close on on the following Thursday, and we gave everybody a week to vote. Turns out, giving everybody a week to vote is too much time.
Yep.
Also turns out that launching the poll on Monday and getting feedback by Thursday is too little time. So I'm conflicted with trying to pull back that deadline to the day before. However, I typically don't do any podcast related things on Wednesdays. I'm wondering. Here's an idea that I've played with for a while. What if, and I haven't found the right way to do this, but what if I do the news, I launch the poll that day for the following week's episode. So it'll be from like Tuesday to Friday or something like that. Then over the weekend, there's nothing, or maybe it closes on Sunday night, and then Monday, or So this is the workflow. This is the work, and this is weird that we're talking like show production meeting here, but I tend to find that some of these are fascinating when I listen to them, and so if this is not what you want to hear, then please stop us. But here's the workflow, right? So it starts collecting the results from the previous week's poll. Okay, that is where my mom's at the airport. Have a safe flight.
Oh, wow.
So it starts with collecting the results from last week's poll. Then you move into sourcing the stories for. Sorry, I'm thinking about this live in the moment. So you get the results from last week's poll. You then send out social thoughts and generate show notes for this week, giving everybody 4 days of lead time. So shows on Thursday, show notes go live on Monday. That gives you and I 4 days. It gives all the patrons several days to get in there and adjust the notes, make comments, etc., etc. There's a ton of lead time. We also post social thoughts out there. It gives everybody 4 days to comment on the story this week. Then go into the news stories, find them, source them, post the poll for the following week's episode. So that's the workflow. And I could build that in, and that would actually be easier in a lot of ways for me. But the trick with that is that we are already talking about a week old news cycle. Like we're on a week's old news cycle.
Yeah.
Already. And this would not necessarily introduce any new anomalies in that workflow.
No, and actually in many ways I don't think that necessarily matters, because some of our stories have been in the bank for a while anyway. Well, yeah.
Well, we pull some through.
But there's I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't think. I mean, how often do we actually get a story that is so burning hot it's that week? I don't know, and there's nothing to stop us actually. This new story we must talk about, etc. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether it's more hassle.
No.
Or you don't get any value out of it.
No. See, here's the thing: is I'm actually trying to optimize in a lot of ways, and I think this could work. Hang on, let me just sketch out some stuff real quick.
Because it gives me time to actually write my
notes
as well.
Yeah, you do your notes. So you get poll results. That then feeds into social thoughts. And I mean, this does give everybody a lot of lead time. How do we get on that cycle though? So right now, we don't have another poll launching until Monday. Would Okay. So if I launched a poll tonight, had it close on Monday, that is a very short window. I would need assurance from patrons and listeners. Anyone can vote on these polls, by the way. I would need assurance from you all. If I could get, like, in the chat, 3 I will votes, I will do it. So voting is important, you all. You voice your opinion.
Democracy, people.
This
Democracy.
is a democratic, democracy, small d, democratic, human factors cast, internet radio program. So, okay. So what that means is tonight. Then I post. After this, I post it, and maybe I could do that in post show. Maybe that's the thing that I do in the post show. Can you hold me to that? And that way we can preview next week's topics right then.
True.
Okay.
Yes.
We do that. We post that in the post show today. We get people who are listening live to go and comment on it while we're talking about it. That way we at least have some votes and we have some idea of what we're talking about. It's always awkward for us when we don't get any votes on those, because then it's like, oh, we have to pick and choose. Thankfully, we normally get at least a few.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. And then on Monday, polls will close. We'll get this all up and running. I gotta mix up some automation here. That will. I might not need to do anything, actually.
Well, I was going to say.
Well, I do need to add some automation for social thoughts. That's something that I do need to do, and I just haven't done it yet because I have other automated tasks that I think are a little bit more important. But that'll be the goal. Incorporate the social thoughts, and then that way send it out. You know, here's last week's episode. The next episode is coming up on this, and we are talking about this, and give us your social thoughts. 4 days later, we collect all the social thoughts that have come in through a Twitter hashtag, through a digest, and add them, append them. That is, oh shit, that is good. Hold on, I'm thinking about more automation here. Yeah. So basically, what happens? We have the HFC social thoughts hashtag. Okay, every time somebody hashtags with that, it will take those, it will pull those into the document and append those in right under HFC social thoughts. So that way we get the tweet, the LinkedIn comment, whatever it is. We'll get all those social thoughts right there.
Clever. If you can make it work.
If I can make that work, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And then that way it's automated into the show notes. We don't even have to worry about it. Hang on. HFC social hashtag. And then into append show notes. See, look at us. We are always attempting to improve the quality of this program that you all have here. Now, of course, this is a luxury for our patrons and our lab members. They can just jump right into these show notes. We post those every week. But the social thoughts, yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. We want to prioritize our patrons' feedback. Just $1 gets you in the door. If you want to write some like stupid stuff in our show notes, we'll read it.
Absolutely. And if you can write my show notes for me, then that would be even better.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I'm running late like I was today.
Barry frequently doesn't look at these show notes until we're like 5 minutes away from show. And
that's rude.
True, no. Barry, listen.
It's true.
This is not a slight in any way. Think about the quality of your commentary. You've looked at the show notes 5 minutes before. You can come on and talk about anything. You are a master at talking about topics.
I like the way you flatten that. Well done. That's good. You can do that again. Let's see. Because normally we talk about the we talk about this over dinner, and so it's on a Thursday evening,
right?
we talk about it as a family over dinner, and I get the family's input, which is quite fun. It beats talking to them about everyday things. So, oh, really? That second? No, is it the third one? Third it came from.
Is that the? Ooh, hold on. Oh, the onboarding.
Yeah. It's ugh.
I really liked this. I really liked the second it came from tonight. Like, that is just a great one. I was really pleased.
Really topical for things that I will talk about when we come up to it. But
Good.
As a family, as you can see, I put my note. This is very, very topical for us at the moment because I'm coming to some realizations about myself, which is really interesting.
It is, isn't it? Oh yeah, if you're neurodivergent in any way, you're gonna want to stick around for that one. Okay, we're 4 minutes till show. Barry, are you good?
I think I've got enough in everything to make this work. I just need to check the blurb because I haven't actually read that yet. You Americans like your Zeds, don't you? Okay, thanks, Alex. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and with attribution, let's just use first name only.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just general rule of thumb. We don't want to dox anybody on our. That'd be the worst thing we could do.
Unless they really annoyed us.
Unless they really, really pissed us off, we could totally do it.
Which Alex hasn't, so that's fine because she's lovely.
Yes. I second that.
So since we talked about, I still don't. We should maybe encourage her to come and take my place in the show.
Oh,
I'll come and join the clan if she fancied doing so. she's getting really good at writing the show notes, so she's doing it all for us. So why not?
Yeah, this is okay. You're immediately putting in the value here for putting this out on Mondays, because then people like Alex can just do the whole show notes for us, and we don't have to do anything.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
By the time we come in, everything's just there and ready to go. How amazing would that be? Can I?
Yes, because if you've got automation actually writing it, then you've got a human going and actually taking out the words that I can't pronounce, then that, which is a lot.
Can I? I hate this. I hate getting distracted by things that will bother me the whole show right before the show.
I had that for an entire day yesterday, which again I'm going to chat about by one more thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I've lost it. Where's it gone?
Append text to a document. Can I? Yeah. One. I'm getting hit with some lag here.
Oh, that's not cool.
I'm gonna have to search, and that's okay. That's okay.
And the meeting I was at tonight as well, just out of mild amusement, I found out I'm keynoting a conference. I was like, an international conference. I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing that then.
Can you get a recording?
Well, I guess so. This is it's in August, I think it is. So, got to work out what I'm going to do it on.
Cool. I would love.
It's computing. It's that mix of computing, wearables, crypto, and human factors.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, we got somebody offering to promote the channel. Oh, that's nice of them.
That's very nice of them.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, you ready for show?
No,
we good?
But
no. All right. Should I hit the go button?
Hit that big red button. Is it red? Yeah.
Well. Oh, you mean this button?
Not that button. But
no, not that button. No. We got a new button. We got a new button for that. You just right here. This button.
Oh, a bit of that. No, there
it is. See that one. That's our new button.
Oh, you really got shiny too. That's funny.
I think that happens when somebody scans it. I'm not sure. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna hit the button. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Greetings to you. This is episode 279. We're recording this episode live on April 6th, 2023. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome, and I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hey, great to be back. I was a bit thinking about Blake taking my seat, so I couldn't let him do it 2 weeks in a row.
Couldn't let Blake keep that seat warm too much, right? So, hey, we do have a great show for you all tonight. We're going to be talking about how wearable brain devices will challenge our mental privacy. We're also going to answer some questions from the community on visiting real-world locations for user research, neurodivergent researchers, and onboarding a new person to a project. So let's get into some programming notes before we get into anything first. First thing I'd like to talk about is, hey, by the way, we have coverage from the Healthcare Symposium, from the Human Factors Ergonomic Society International Symposium on Healthcare and Human Factors. Okay, that's a long name. We have coverage on it. It's coming out. We are just waiting on some final release forms for everyone to be okay with the final releases. We do have one piece of coverage out already, and that is Safe and Effective with Heidi Mehrzad. And if you're unaware, we have just recently announced Safe and Effective Medical Human Factors, a new podcast, part of the Human Factors Podcast Network. So Human Factors Cast network of podcasts. It's going to be a great show. Heidi and I have been working on this thing for months, years. And so be on the lookout for that. Some of the other healthcare symposium coverage you can look forward to, talking about the workshops that happened there. We check in with the student design competition winners and navigating challenges in human factors in healthcare. And we also do some conference and journal updates with some old friends of the pod. But Barry, I am dying to know what's going on over at 1202.
So at 1202 live is the interview with Jenny Radcliffe, the people hacker, who talks to me about her career in basically social engineering, pen testing, and how she got into it, all the way from the early days all the way through to what she's doing now, being a world-renowned keynote speaker and TED talker. Her new book has been released and is available on Amazon and is actually a really good read. So we get into all of that. But coming up on Monday is an interview talking about naturalistic decision make with Rob Hutton. So that is going to go live on Monday, and that is also thoroughly recommended.
Ooh, looking forward to that one. All right. Well, we know why you're here. You're here for the news, so let's get into it. Yes, that's right. This is the part of the show all about human factors news. Mr. Barry Kirby, what do we have this week?
So this week we're talking about wearable brain devices that will challenge our mental privacy. So the rise of brain tracking devices in the form of earbuds, smartwatches, headbands, sleep aids, and even tattoos could revolutionize healthcare and transform our lives, according to this article in Scientific American. The possibilities are endless, from improving our ability to meditate, focus, and communicate, to offering personalized treatments for depression, epilepsy, and cognitive decline. However, the proliferation of these devices also poses risks to mental privacy, freedom of thought, and self-determination. Employers increasingly seek out neural data to track worker fatigue levels and personality traits, and there are also reports of Chinese employees being sent home if their brain metrics are less than optimal. Governments also seek to access our brains, raising questions about individual privacy and autonomy. As brain wearables advance alongside artificial intelligence, the line between human agency and machine intervention is becoming blurred, prompting concerns about the offloading of mental tasks to AI and the erosion of independent thought. The article makes a call for action to ensure that neurotechnology revolution benefits humanity rather than leading us into an Orwellian future of spying on our brains. It advocates for prudent vigilance, an open and honest debate about the risks and benefits of neurotechnology, and the preservation of individual cognitive liberties. So, Nick, what are your thoughts? Are you able to give us your own true thoughts? Are you being brain hacked by AI just to tell us what the what technology wants us to think?
Probably that one. So yes, we do need to be careful here. And I think that's the bottom line. Yes, let's be careful. I am still dubious about brain computer interface technology as it stands today. I'm not denying that it will be a thing in the future. And especially dubious of the ones that are connected to online systems that are tracking information and the sending and receiving of data from your brain to your brain. It's all very what is this going to do? Is it going to be very similar to how we treated the AI uprising just in the last couple months here? I think this article brings up some really good points. I think that it's alarmist in a lot of ways, but maybe we can actually think ahead of the curve when it comes to brain computer interfaces, unlike we did with AI. That is a potential thing here that we can look at. AI rose very quickly, and there's a lot of ethical privacy concerns when it comes to AI. Are we going to have those same questions when it comes to BCIs as they are eventually more mainstream? That's a question I have. I think there are some interesting, just high level things that we can point to. Like once we start communicating brain to brain, the speed at which we communicate right now is through verbal communication. You and I, thousands of miles apart, but we are communicating right now. What happens if I can communicate with your brain in such a fast way that we don't even need to have a physical conversation? That information can be transferred in a millisecond. And then if we're just transferring information back and forth, where does my brain end and yours begin? And if we're doing that with not just each other, but everybody else that we're interconnected with, and they're doing it with everybody else that they're connected with, where does our brain start and end? And where does the hive mind begin? These are like some really high level, scary things to think about. But that's just my initial thoughts. Barry, where are you at with all of this?
Well, it just shows that, I mean, we've spoken about brain HCI or BCIs before, even though we couldn't necessarily find which episode it was. But I've said on a more than one occasion that, we've spoken about before in the context of Elon Musk doing, because he was trying to drive a lot of this at least 12 months ago, whatever. And we'd sort of said around, I'm quite up for the idea of BCIs, but not if Elon's doing it. I don't want him in my head. But it just shows that we were sort of joking around that to a certain extent, but it shows that that technology must be getting developed in a more serious way, because now people are concerned about it. It's now got to a level where we must be, I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it directly, but it must be getting to a level of maturity where people are like, actually, there's something here. What's interesting about the scenario you just painted around passing that data between us, one of the big things I've always been really aware of when developing HCIs is around mental workload. And at the moment, you can sort of manage your own mental workload. That if somebody's giving you too much information, you can sort of stop. Can you just wait a minute? Let me process what you've just told me. Or look, I'm getting lots of information coming in from lots of different sources. You can switch some screens. You can manage your inputs that way. If we're connected on that level, how do you switch it off? How do you possibly manage the flow of data, and how do you not just end up in a sort of wibbling mess on the floor with all of the information coming through? Fundamentally, I think it's exciting. I think it's if we it's a, there's a balance here between policy and being terrified about what it's going to become, and therefore stopping the development in a way that we possibly don't anticipate with unintended consequence. But equally, like you alluded to, the rise of AI. I'm still very I still don't think it's as big a deal as people is making it out, because the way that we've described what it's doing at the moment, it's more about the abuse of it than what the AI itself does. And I think this is a similar thing. I think it's a technology that needs to be managed, and so we'll see how it develops. I'm quite excited though.
I want to
Should we?
comment. I want
Oops.
to comment on one of the things that you brought up here about communicating something and mental workload. This is a very interesting point because right now we are limited in the amount of information that we can send over. Like I said, I am communicating to you via verbal via a verbal modality right now.
Mhm.
If I was communicating to you through brain signals, Barry, I would not only be able to communicate ideas and thoughts, but I'd be able to communicate how I'm feeling about a certain thing. And so not only would I be able to, but then I'd also be able to read things, right? I'd also be able to read how much your brain is taking in right now. And I'd be able to read whether or not I should push that information. And all this would happen in like a split second. So it's very interesting from that perspective where you're trying to think about all this communication piece. Again, we're looking at more of the abuse of this technology. And I think we should focus on that for the rest of this episode. But I do want to just mention that it's going to be a very interesting piece once we start communicating brain to brain. That's
But I guess there's a massive assumption here, which is something I'd like to drill into before we get into how it can be abused. Is how do you know that you think the same way as I do? Because I know that we're having this discussion now, and I'm communicating my thoughts, but I'm also reading the notes that are going on either side, keeping an eye on the the comments that people are making online. And so, how do you know that the bit that you're chiming into with this brain interface is the bit that you actually want to hear? You could be hearing about also about the fact that maybe I need to take a drink or at something at some point, and that's got nothing to do with what it is that we're trying to communicate. How are we meant to monitor and manage the information and how it flows? Do you just get a splurge of everything? This is where I think we need a better understanding of the technology in order to better understand what the impact is. Because if it's just the fact that it's almost a Vulcan mind meld type thing, just bringing the Star Trek reference there, where you're literally just sharing the experiences and, as you say, emotion and all that sort of stuff. That's a very, very different proposition to almost telepathy, a telepathic conversation. Because even in telepathic conversation, you're still monitoring what's going on in your head. So, yeah, I think is this an all or nothing technology, which I think will have a big impact on this idea of privacy.
Yeah, I agree. I want to get into some social thoughts here because there's some interesting points that some of our patrons and lab members have made on this. So I want to let's take this first point here by Alex. This is horrendously concerning. Is this being used to support staff or to be punitive? Is PTO offered to those who are sent home? And this is with respect to the Chinese employees being sent home if brain metrics are less than optimal. And I think this is an interesting question because these are metrics that we have now. If we can hook, put some brainwave reading device on people's heads, or even we can measure physiological data right now that is another metric to track against. What what is that threshold? What does all this mean? I don't think in China that they are getting PTO for this. This is probably a performance related thing. You must maintain a certain level of performance on this job. Is that right? Is that fair? No, but I think that is what's going on in this case. Barry, sound off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ironic because just this week I've been talking around employee well-being and doing helping a research study by being interviewed on this, and it's how much is punitive, how much is supportive. Because if you know that your staff are stressed out, and this could be a way of understanding their level of stress. Because if you're not looking after an employee's well-being, which is my perspective from as a small business owner, then if I can look after my staff's well-being, then actually they're better on the job. If we know that you've got the optimum amount of stress level, you've got the right sort of driver, you're feeling good in yourself, everything's great at home, you're going to perform on your job. Brilliant. That's in my interest to do so. Whereas larger businesses don't necessarily take the same sort of approach. And so I think this idea of could it be supportive or is it punitive is almost is basically down. What is that company driver? Is it bums on seats for every hour on the hour at the right level of optimization? And what happens if they are sending you home? Is there then somebody waiting in the wings who is just on optimum piece and coming in? So yeah, I think that's interesting idea, and in different companies and different societies will take different approaches.
Yeah, let's just look at some of the companies that are trying to develop this technology, right? We mentioned Neuralink already, but you also have major tech companies like Meta, Snap, Microsoft, Apple. They are all looking into this type of technology, which is kind of scary when you think about all the data that they already have access to. Can you pair that up? I don't know. I'd imagine you could, and find some really interesting things about individuals based on their brain signals, and that again triggers some privacy concerns. What can you glean from? You can already glean a lot of information about somebody based on the trackers that are on websites and the programs that you use. And there's a lot of data already out there, and that aggregation of data is what gives you away, not necessarily any individual piece. It's the sharing of that information across all these things. So if you are sharing brain thoughts with advertisers, imagine that, then you've thought about, a very small addition to your kitchen. And now you're seeing ads all over the place for that product because you had one little thought about it. That's the kind of the danger that we're in here. These targeted ads are one aspect of it, but there are also larger concerns with respect to things like freedom of thought. And that's a really big one.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I always have a wry grin when we talk about targeted ads, because actually, I think targeted ads are a good idea. Because if you can have something that is focused around what it is that you're actually looking for, in principle, well, why do I want to see adverts around things that I'm not looking for? However, it is that whole piece around how did they get that information in the first place, which is the sneaky bit around it, and this is very much around that, isn't it? Because it's not only what have you been thinking about, but it's that only is it unintended, might be intended. It's that consequence of those people around you knowing that you've been thinking about whatever it is. So if you're sat there going, "Oh, I just want a new car," then suddenly it comes up in front of your partner that you want a new car and you can't afford, that type of thing. It could even be worse than a new car. Then that's a problem. But let's look at the positives of this to a certain extent as well. Is if we have, I mean, I think we've spoken on this podcast before around really our understanding of mental health, and mental health issues is still woefully almost Stone Age in the way that we deal with it. If we can use these BCIs to better understand mental health, then that's got to be a good thing. And also just revolutionize healthcare as a whole. If it's this if we can get a better understanding of not only what is wrong, what people what people's symptoms are and that type of thing, then surely that could make the healthcare domain a lot more reactive and give healthcare professionals a lot better insights into what is not only what people are saying that is wrong with them, but what is actually wrong with them.
Yeah, I think that's true. That is true. But we all have. So here's where I'm at with this. We all have intrusive thoughts. We don't act on those impulses. Many times. I should say many times.
I was going to say, I've seen the amount of Star Wars stuff behind you.
So, okay, fine, sure. So look, we all have intrusive thoughts. And
Yes.
if I'm sitting in a therapist's office or a doctor's office, and I have a thought about, am I going to die? I might as well just end it now, very fleeting. I'm not suicidal in any way, but that's just a thought. Like, oh, I have 6 months to live. Why am I and that flags them to say this person needs a little bit extra mental assistance. That could be true. We need to find what that threshold is for those types of intrusive thoughts, and we need to protect people from feeling like they can feel those intrusive thoughts or thoughts that are not acted upon, because there is this concept of freedom of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Are you think about things without being prompted sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And like, here's a dramatic example. Overthrowing the government, right? Is that going to be illegal to think about that? Well, what if it was just a fleeting thought and you're not serious about it? You're not going to act on it. I'm getting us into some really dicey territory here in terms of content, but I'm just using this as an example because what if you have these weird thoughts? Like, I don't even want to give examples.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you saw that. I mean, they don't even have to be fleeting thoughts. You can still believe some things and not act upon them. So you might, there might be certain people that you just don't like, but doesn't mean you go into their face and say, "I don't like you," blah 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 blah. You manage the situation accordingly, and if you cannot put your, politicians, full stop, are very good, whether you support them or not, doesn't matter what party they're on or all that sort of stuff. But politicians generally manage the way they interface with people all of the time. And if you don't have the ability to put them barriers in place, then I mean, maybe you'd be better at electing representatives. Who knew? But that would be really interesting. But then also the companies that you're working with, companies that you're engaged with, again with the social thoughts. Alex highlighted that there's companies out there that already incentivize wearables and get you to send your data to their internal systems. So if you added 5,000 steps to your watch this month, you get gift cards here in the UK, and they'll probably be out in the US as well. But there are health insurance companies that if you go to the gym and your watch sends in the data to show that you've done a certain amount of exercise a month, you get cheaper health insurance. So will this also, where does the boundary stop there in terms of that stuff coming that way? I mean, where does this start? Where does it stop? I mean, at what point? You mentioned earlier about us being able to think, and then use this single line of communication, i.e., our voice, body language as well. You could argue. But you get the opportunity to think about what you need to say before you say it. And sometimes I find it very useful to think about it before I say it, because I tend to drop myself into awkward situations. So the ability to reflect is a really good thing. If you had no filter between that, I mean, the dangers there. It does concern.
Very dangerous, right? And Alex also bringing up in the chat, thank you for mentioning intrusive thoughts, and also that this could be very, very dangerous for people with severe mental illness, because there's a lot going on in everybody's heads. And when we look at people with severe mental illness, that can definitely be challenging to experience some of those thoughts when, again, maybe not going to act upon them, or maybe the intent is there to act upon them. And how do you tell what the intent is behind somebody when they want to do or act upon a certain thought? This, I think, really highlights the concerns around the right to protect somebody's thoughts as it relates to brain computer interfaces. How do you weed that noise out from the intent if you are using it to control something, right? You are a factory worker and you are attempting to harmonize with some robotic component within the factory, and you are controlling it via your brain. How does it parse out all of the other stuff that's going on in that brain as you are trying to control that thing? Is it also monitoring and downloading that data and parsing that data and understanding what about you is going on in that moment? If you're distracted, if you're thinking about things at home and you're at work, is that going to impact your ability to communicate via BCI with that robotic arm? I think all this really comes down to is the need for a brain computer interface bill of rights, if you will, right? I think there's like this AI bill of rights that everyone's talking about, and I think we need something similar for brain data, because these are the issues that arise when you start to think about everything that's being collected and everything that could potentially be misconstrued because it's a data signal coming from your brain.
So, what happens then with your BCI Bill of Rights coming in right now and then restricting the technology development because you're almost neutering it before it gets there? So, before we actually understand what the capability is actually about, you're already saying no. Do you think that's a problem? Do you think that's an issue there that we might not?
I think it's the right approach. I think we should have done that with AI. And there's been a massive pause, like just use AI as an example. There's been a massive
Yep.
call for a pause from a lot of top AI developers, and I think a lot of this is probably competitive reasons that
Yeah, I was going to
GPT
say
is
that.
so far ahead of them that they need 6 months to catch up. But I mean, there's still this call for a pause, and the reason cited for this pause is that we need to think about the implications of artificial intelligence before we start implementing it everywhere. I think thinking about these problems, or at least defining the boundaries, and I don't think that would necessarily limit the technology, Barry. I really don't, because if we establish we all have freedom of thought, and we cannot we that is a right that we
Mhm.
cannot overstep. Treat it like guns in the US. We you have more protections than
Bad
women's
example.
choice, right? No, I'm just saying, like, think about it that way, right? Because that is how we need to think about our freedom to think what we want to think,
Mhm.
and not have that be fed into malicious actors, or having some sort of consequence for having intrusive thoughts or having a mental illness in your head because you've thought something, right? I think establishing those boundaries ahead of time is good, because then it allows us to put those limitations on the devices that we're building, and it forces us to think about how these devices are going to interact with us given those rights that we want to establish. So I
So,
think it's the right way to go.
just playing devil's advocate,
Sure.
because I largely agree with you. Um, Given that we don't actually know what construes a thought legally, so what is a thought? and what gives you a basis for an actual thought as opposed to a fleeting thought, as opposed to a grounded thought, or are there different types of thoughts? And how is it represented? How is it actually stored in the brain? How can you prove that you had a thought in the first place? All them sort of issues. What is the definition of a thought? There's a whole, because this technology, I still don't think, or our understanding of how this technology works, I feel could just, with the best will in the world, I've seen lawmakers and policymakers, we've spoken about this before, in our national institutions, who know nothing about what they're talking about, have no, I was going to say intelligence, that's probably the wrong word, or maybe the right word, but you've seen the way that they interviewed the likes of Mark Zuckerberg and people like that with just inane questioning. I mean, imagine with something like this, them trying to create policy around something they truly don't understand and just want a political point score. That will kill off any benefits that we've described tonight around, the ability to treat people's mental and physical health in a better way, the better way to do some of that. So I think you're absolutely right. There is got to be some, there's got to be some protections, something around that. I just don't know. I don't think that we are mature enough to articulate it.
If only we could access our own thoughts. But I jest, but there are also risks when it comes to these types of things too, because even if we establish a hard boundary to say these types of thoughts we store behind secure data centers that should not be accessed for malicious purposes, well, then you introduce this whole cybersecurity issue of what happens if a malicious actor actually gets into those data stores and processes those thoughts that we've established should not be public. And should we then, as a society, really a Western society, I should say, should we determine that all these thoughts cannot be stored? And I think that is the right way to go. Certain thoughts, and you're right, categorize the thoughts, and then certain thoughts should not be stored in a data center anywhere, because that would be trouble, I think. But at least it would introduce a lot of privacy concerns. It would get rid of the issues when you think about hacking or malicious use, especially, hacking the data centers, at least where that information is stored. I think there's a lot to think about here, pun intended, but I really like, you're thinking about like all these major tech companies, they want your data for various reasons. And we bring up the different applications that this could play in healthcare. And I think if we treated it very similarly to how we treat health data without the breaches, then
I was going to say, okay.
without the breaches, and that's always going to be an issue. I don't know what else to do about that other than.
No, I mean, but again, we don't stop building cars because of the risk of car theft. We don't stop.
Right.
We don't stop building supermarkets because the risk of shoplifting. I think it's absolutely something we need to be aware of and cognizant of, and engineer for. It should be something that is part and parcel of our development. But I also think we don't stop developing just because of the risk of. Otherwise, you'll never fix it. It'll never get there. I think again, the interesting thing about we spent a lot of time thinking about, what happens if these thoughts get out in the public and that type of thing. But actually, I think there's a really interesting human factors issues here around how do you turn it on and off? How do you, what are the processes involved in communicating? Establishing one-to-one communication, not only between people, but actually, as you said, if you're controlling something, how does that happen? Because not only, you use the example of a remote arm. What about an airplane?
Yeah.
How could if you're flying something? I was going to say a fast jet, but even just a passenger airline or something, a freight thing, and we talk about the almost intrusive thoughts. You're flying along, going, and then you're suddenly like, oh, that's a pretty cloud. Oh, cloud dead. What are the because I can't stay. I mean, you can tell just by the way I talk. I rarely stay on track with one thought process from start to finish. So how do you the interesting bit about developing software that is going to deal with that is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. There are plenty of domains in which this could be mission critical. You have military applications. Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. Like, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
this as a weapon of war could be really dangerous. You also have government uses where it could really raise some important ethical privacy concerns when it comes to individual rights. Are we allowed access to our public servants, elected officials? Are we allowed access to their thoughts? Or do they have that freedom too? Should they have that freedom? These are all questions that we should be thinking about.
What just with the government, what about your
Yeah.
justice system and your
Yes.
person sits there? Are you telling the truth? Well, let's hook you up and find out.
Let's hook you up and find out. And then there's also sort of the exacerbation of some of these inequalities that exist right now in society. You could have further discrimination based on how people think if that information is made public. Can you imagine a system that like shocks somebody every time they have a racist thought? I would love that personally, but like you think about it, right? People, I hate to even say it, but people they should have that freedom of thought. And that is what we're talking about here, right? We can't shock somebody every time they have a racist thought or every time they think about, skinning a cat or something. Like, these are things that should be, I hate to say even but you should also have the freedom to think about, man, what would my life look like if I had $1 million? Something completely innocuous, something
Mhm.
completely unrealistic. But at the same time, it's like, you're not going to do anything with those, I guess, positive, well-intentioned thoughts. So why would you do anything with the negative thoughts as well? It's a very tricky, dicey question. And again, who has access to this? All this stuff is just insane, right? Like, I can barely wrap my brain around it. I think I am experiencing some workload
Mhm.
overload here.
Maybe you need
Barry,
to be able to jack into your brain and just get them thought in a pure state and put them out.
exactly. A podcast can be communicated in half a second in the future. Barry, do you have any other closing thoughts on this article before we get
Oh,
on to the next part?
I think bring this on. I can't wait to see how this develops. I think
Oh,
yes, it's scary, and it's analogous to the AI thing. We're on the brink of something that we don't necessarily understand. But isn't that exciting?
ah, kind of. I don't know. I'm down with the AI thing, but when it comes to like getting in my brain and understanding my thoughts, I'm a little more. And maybe that's just me. I don't know. How do you all think about it though? Like, I want to know that. Thank you to our patrons and everyone for selecting our news topic this week. And thank you to our friends over at Scientific American for our news story. If you want to follow along, we do post the links to all the original articles on our weekly roundups in our blog. You can also join us in our Discord for more discussion on these stories and much more. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to see what's going on in the Human Factors community right after this. Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast, your ultimate source for all things human factors.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our monthly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and access to the full library of Human Factors Minute, a weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Oh, yes. Huge thank you, as always, to all of our patrons, but we especially want to thank our Human Factors Cast All Access patrons like Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you truly keep the show going. And if if we're going to read this dumb commercial, cue funky music. I don't have funky music. Hello, listeners. Do you love our podcast so much that you want to become more than fans? Perhaps fans with benefits? Well, you can always support us on Patreon. Just $1 gets you in the door. But what exactly does your generous support on Patreon pay for, you ask? Well, enlighten you with all the nitty-gritty details. Firstly, it covers the monthly hosting fees. It takes cold hard cash to keep our podcast accessible for your listening pleasure. Next up, annual website domain fees. I mean, who knew websites? You have to pay for real estate too, but it's necessary to keep our little corner of the internet up and running. Let's not forget about the annual website capability fees. Let's just say we need some extra magic behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly for all you lovely listeners. Patreon also helps us pay for programs and automation behind the scenes. Yep, we like it fancy and efficient at the same time. And last but not certainly least, your support on Patreon helps us get products and services that help assist with our audio and video production, because let's face it, we may love talking, but we also want it to sound as fancy and as polished as possible. And the cherry on top, we get to live stream to help us reach more people on different platforms. That's right, we're not just a one platform wonder. So listeners, let's become fans with benefits and become a Patreon supporter now. Help us continue to produce the fun and informative podcast that you know and love. Trust me, we'll make it worth it. All right, let's get into the next part of the show.
It came from...
Yes, this is the part of the show we like to call It Came From. This is where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the community is talking about. If you find any of these answers useful, wherever you're watching, give us a like, thumbs up, whatever it is, to help other people find this content. We have 3 up tonight. The first one here is from the user experience subreddit. They write, this one's by Sanseb. They write, any user researchers here that regularly visit facilities or factories or shops to do street interviews? They write, are there any user researchers who visit real world locations for their research work? I want to learn about the experiences of people who conduct research outside of their offices, like in hospitals or factories. I feel tired of being confined to my home and want to know about the real life experiences of people. Can anyone share their industry experiences and what their day-to-day work looks like? Barry, what are your thoughts on this question?
Isn't that the day job? How can you be a user researcher and not actually go and talk to? I must be missing something, because, I mean, to answer the question, I go and talk to all my users, either where they're at or where I'm at, and that includes everything from people within, across the defense industry and around and about. How could you do all of that just sat in your own office? I don't understand.
I understand. I understand.
Please enlighten me.
If you work in software, this is actually very easy to do. This is very easy to just get on a call with somebody who uses your product. It's very easy to send out a survey. What they are talking about, if you're unaware, is a contextual inquiry. It's fairly common in many domains, or an ethnographic analysis, I think, is another name that it goes by. Anyway, this is fairly common, actually. And so seeing this question is really surprising, but this highlights for me the difference in some ways between user experience and human factors, where some user experience researchers will go out and experience a product's life cycle from start to finish, especially if it has other physical components to it, like using a device in conjunction with software. This is frequently done, and you need to see it in context, which therefore context in contextual inquiry. I think this question seems really junior to me, that they may have come into UX research from a design background or from another background that doesn't have that history in engineering or psychological research. And so I do want to just highlight this because it seems like a fairly basic question, but yes, this is something that you should be doing, and you should be advocating within your company to do so, to go out and understand how the product is used, not just the product, but also the end to end life cycle of what a user is doing in their workflow. That helps put the product that you are developing into context with the rest of everything else. I don't know. You have any other thoughts on that one, Barry?
It's interesting because, again, the whole junior piece, I often find that I got to visit more interesting things when I was a junior than when my career has evolved. I'm more now sending out other people to do it. I mean, for me, it's part of the job. It's part of the exciting bit of the job, about where you get to go and see people actually doing their stuff. So yeah, if you're not doing that yet, then just bang a drum, go and do it, because it's where the fun lies.
Yeah, agreed. All right. This one here is from Insatiable Writer on the UX Research subreddit. Neurodivergent researchers' advice. Hi, I'm a UX researcher recently diagnosed as neurodivergent. Any tips from fellow ND researchers, especially those with ADHD and or autism, or strategies that have helped you in your work? Barry, you have a lot to say about this one.
Well, I think it's really it's really topical for us as a family, because we are learning more and more about this, and perhaps how it affects us. Now, I've mentioned this before, but generally, as a family, we've home educated our children, and it's not until our eldest children have gone into mainstream or more mainstream education, university and stuff, that we've sort of, I guess, realized around level things with ADHD and other neurodivergent issues. And it's the fact that we see these as a problem, but actually for us, it's more about what what are the what are the superpowers that they give you, which I think is more interesting. We always tend to talk about ADHD and autism. How do we cope with it? How do we try and make you normal again? And for me, that's just utter rubbish, because the people who have ADHD, or maybe somewhere on the autism scale, or what, however we classify it, it just means that you've got different skills, you've got different ways of thinking about it, which actually give you different advantages, because you process things in different ways. So it's not, for me, it's not about how we cope, but I quite like the way that this has been sort of been put, is about how's it helped. And for me, it's about understanding and having a better understanding of really, once you understand how this affects the way that people work, and therefore what makes them work better, then you can actually scope the work around how they work. And so if they're better at doing maybe some more analytical things, or they only work really well at a certain time of day or something like that, then work to that. Fundamentally, I call it work to the superpowers, because everybody's got them. Everybody's got their own ways of working, and it's just different flavors. But it is interesting around, I think, now as well, that our understanding and viewpoints around ADHD, autism, and mental health in general is evolving actually more rapidly than I give it credit for, because it isn't that long ago that we'd be looking down on ADHD with a certain level of disdain, whereas now I think we are much more grown up in terms of recognizing what it is, and that it's not a disability. It's it's a thing. It's an actual something. It's not something to be looked down on anymore. Nick, what do you think?
Speaking as someone diagnosed with ADHD, it comes in many flavors. there's, sort of the executive dysfunction, the distraction, the hyperfixation. They all come and go, and there's various cocktails of mixtures of all those things in people diagnosed with ADHD. And I think, like you said, Barry, use them to your advantage in whatever you're doing. For me, one of the things that I found out about myself is that I work most efficiently when I can block out distractions. So between the hours of 12 and 3 a.m., when there's no news cycles going on, there's no kid awake, my wife's asleep, I can solely focus on the things that I need to focus on. Now, that results in poor sleeping habits, but I've found out about myself. So if I need to go on something at that time and I'm fully awake to focus and that hyper focus from 12 to 3 and get something done. There's also the distraction element, and I experience a lot of this throughout the day where, even in my day job where, focusing on something like user interviews, that is really hard. So I try to record things if I can. When you're in a space where you can't record things, like a classified space, it makes things very difficult. But having a dedicated note taker, so I can focus more on things like the flow of the conversation rather than the content. I am aware of what's being said, but I'm not committing any of that to memory. So these are some of the tricks that I've picked up along the way. That is a best practice to have a note taker, but something like that where you are sort of planning for the things in which are going to be more difficult for you, or that actually, like you said, Barry, are superpowers in some way, like that hyperfixation. And so planning for those types of things in the way that you plan your work is what I've found to be really helpful. Now, I will mention, anyone interested in this topic can go and look at the Reddit post further. There's a lot of really great advice in that thread, and I highly encourage you all to go look at that. Let's get into this last one here. This one is by Kava Kratava on the user experience subreddit. I'm a lead designer at a consultancy firm. I'm onboarding a new person to my project. What's your go-to way of doing so? Hi, as a lead UXer, how do you efficiently onboard a new member to the team? I'm currently onboarding a new colleague to our project, and I'm looking for some tips and advice to make it a smoother process. Barry, what do you think?
So firstly, have a process. That helps. And generally, if you're part of a larger company, HR will have a process. But just because the HR has a process to get them into the company doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way of getting them onto your project or within your team. So I always still advocate that within a team and within a project, have an onboarding process. And that should just be an overview about what the project is. So if you're talking about the project as per the question, then have 2 or 3 slides on what the project is about that you can offload to anybody who joins the project, and make sure you keep that updated. Have the key list of contacts up to date and available. This is where, actually, I find having an intranet site for projects is really, really useful, because you have an information page, FAQ type thing. And I do that for all projects, no matter how large or small they are. So that helps new people come on board. But fundamentally as well, it's never smooth, because different people have different needs, different wants. They're coming into different parts of the project. They'll have different anxieties. So when somebody joining a project new is going to be anxious about something, you're bound to be, because you're stepping off into the unknown. Some people might be worried about the process. Some people might be worried about the customer. Some whatever it is. Imposter syndrome, all that sort of stuff. So whilst you have your process there, don't forget the person. Talk to them all the way through it. Certainly within the first 2 weeks is generally, make sure you have constant catch-ups with them. Ask them how it's going, and ask them what they think they need to be able to do stuff. And then the last bit we always try to do is write it down. At the end of their onboarding, try and get them to write down what they thought went well, what they thought didn't, and include that in use that feedback for the next person, because you just enrich in that process. Nick, how do you do it?
I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to plug the lab, because we've been going through some updates to our onboarding process recently, and this just felt very topical for that. So here's the thing. We have a lab onboarding checklist that we look at, and this is, first things first, get them access to everything that you use. That is sort of the baseline. But you're right, there are more things to that, and as it comes to each person, you're going to want to have a one-on-one meeting with that person to talk about their goals, responsibilities, expectations working on any given project. You're also going to want to assign them tasks that work well with their skills and that are relevant to their experience and that are allowing them to build confidence in their role. You don't want to send them off the deep end right away. You want to do a slow roll into working on these projects. And just me personally, I've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes at the lab just to make sure this is a seamless process, all the way from automated workflows where you have an automated email that comes out with, here's some next steps, here's everything that you need to do. Like I said, that onboarding checklist, making sure that the workflow of that checklist accurately matches how information should be revealed and exposed to the new person in the lab. There's a lot that goes into onboarding, and it can go very, very wrong. Barry, like you said, it's never smooth. And just know that frequent communication is a good thing. And I'm not always the best at that, but I think that is what is going to help in those cases for onboarding new folks. Yeah. Okay. One more thing. That's it. One more thing. What's going on, Barry?
Well, talking about automation, I've been playing with Power Automate, which is a Microsoft tool, part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And I've never really touched it until this week because you just don't have the time, to sit down and just explore something new. Well, I had a lot of deadlines this week, and as is the case, we've been talking about neurodiversity and stuff. As is the case, whenever I have a lot to do, I suddenly find I need to do everything else at the same time, and so I lost pretty much an entire Wednesday morning playing with Power Automate, and actually, it is now getting to the point where it's actually doing some useful stuff that I want it to do. So actually, just with that last question, whenever we onboard have a new project, I always create a brand new project space in SharePoint for it to use. And I sort of had a templated version of that, which kind of worked. Whereas now with Power Automate, I found I could do it more efficiently and update my SharePoint lists and create links. But what's been the reason it's my one more thing really is not just because I've been geeking out on some coding, is that it's yet another example of a tool that is nearly so good that it's bad, because it does things just about right, but I'm going to have to go back and tinker with it. So, as an example, it will create my SharePoint space. It will create a SharePoint group now, an Office 365 group, but it won't automatically link it to Teams and create a channel. I have to then do that extra, even though that should just be a thing. I then get it to update a SharePoint list, which has a link of all of my live projects, and it assigns it a status and stuff. But the link it gives, normally, you have an alias for it, so it can be just a simple name, and the hyperlink lives under it as your underlined highlighted thing. It doesn't do that. It won't allow you to put an alias in, so you get the entire link in there. And I'm gonna have to go back and put the alias in, and it's just frustrating. And the amount of Googling I'm having to do until I hit a moment of realization that I could just ask ChatGPT. And then, so now I'm in another loop of I'm trying to use Power Automate and then use ChatGPT to teach me how to use Power Automate. And it just feels like a really AI overloaded world that perhaps has maybe lost control, and we should have some policy around to stop it over everything. Anyway, Nick, what's your one more thing?
Oh, I could go a million directions with this. I mentioned to Blake last week that I had 6 different items on my one more thing, and now I'm kind of picking and choosing something that that is going along with your one more thing. As long as we're talking about automation, I have some really high importance automation tasking that I'm working on, and I haven't touched it in a week. And I'm forgetting everything that I need to do to make that automation work. And to give some perspective, this is not a simple automated workflow. This workflow has something like 30 something steps, and these automations happen over a 2-week time period
Wow.
span. So it's a lot of, and they're referencing multiple different documents and multiple different, like, I'm trying to automate a major pain point, and to just like put it down for a week, I keep telling myself I gotta sit down, and I haven't touched it since last Wednesday. I keep telling myself I gotta sit down and actually look into it and actually figure this out, because it's going to have measurable impact for the things that I'm doing. And I just it's not necessarily the work, it's the thought process of how do I get this thing to work in the way that I want it to. Because, like you said, Barry, if you get just close enough, it's not going to be. It's almost going to cause you more rework to go back and fix those things than it would be to just get it right. And I'm trying to get it to the point where it works very similarly to how we have our show notes now. We don't have to do a whole lot of work on our show notes. So that's where we're at with that. But I'm trying to get this to be very similar to that. Yeah. And I can keep these other one more things for later. All right. Well, that's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode and enjoy some of the discussion about BCIs, I'll encourage you to go listen to episode 205, where Blake and Elise break down what it's like to drive an exoskeleton using brain signals. Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on our Discord community. Visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple things you can do. One, wherever you're listening, just stop what you're doing. Just go leave us a 5-star review, whatever platform it is. That's really helpful. Two, you could always tell your friends about us. That is the number one way in which we grow as a podcast, is that word of mouth. And three, if you have the financial means to do so, you want to do it, you can always consider supporting us on Patreon. Just $1 gets you in the door for a bunch of different cool things. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Mr. Barry Kirby, thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk to you about hooking up to your brain and understanding your thoughts?
You don't want to do that. But if you want to come chat about it anyway, come and find me on social media, Baz_K. Or you can come and listen to me interview various amazing people around the Human Factors community on 1202, the Human Factors podcast at 1202podcast.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me across Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning in to Human Factors Cast. Until next time, it depends. Woo! Good show.
Knocked it out the park.
That was. I'm not going to say what I was just going to say, but that was a good show. I will type in chat what I was about to say.
Okay, fair enough. Oh. Gosh.
But I can't say that publicly. Anyway, there we go.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes.
So as promised, we should look into next week's stories. Publish the link right now, so that way everyone can see it, vote on it, and I want everybody who's watching right now to go to this link and vote on it. I'll paste it in the chat whenever we get this thing up. So let's see here. Let's do. I have a whole workflow for this. Why can I not find it? All right. Or we'll just do this. Okay. Should I share my screen? I feel like I should share my screen for something like this, so that way everyone can see what this process is like. I don't know. Is that fun and interesting?
Depends what's on your screen at this moment in time.
Oh, well, okay. If you're going to play it that way.
Well, I'm just suggesting that you make sure that your screen is clear of all other things, like the pictures of the naked people and that sort of stuff before you share it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I think it's a very good call. Hold on. Did I?
See, because the other thing, while you're doing that, talking about the brain HCI stuff, I suddenly realized as well, they could get you in an awful lot of trouble with your significant other.
Oh,
You're walking down the street, you see maybe somebody who you find momentarily attractive, an intrusive thought makes its way into your brain, and suddenly you get a hand slapped round the back of the head. You haven't even said anything.
oh,
I mean,
man.
it wouldn't make that much difference in my partnership, my marriage anyway, because Amanda always knows what I'm thinking, and she just does it anyway.
This is interesting. I just saw the number of posts that are tagged with Choose the News. We've been letting people choose the stories for the podcast 86 times.
That's a year and
which is a lot, right?
That's a year and a half. That's 18 months worth, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not going to share my screen. People would rather look at us than a screen, I think. Maybe.
Well, I think that's probably true. I mean, who wouldn't? Is that a vain thing to say? Quite possibly.
Is that a vain thing to say? I don't know. Next Thursday. So next Thursday is, what's the date? It is the 13th, April 13th. So right now I am looking at the stories for next week, and I am going to post them. So what I have to do for this is I have to go to our blog. I have to look at the most recent Choose the News or weekly news, which we dropped on the 4th, which was what, 2 days ago? On Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, and the stories for I think one of them I want to comment on one of them, but I don't want to sway.
Oh.
You don't want to sway. Should I sway?
Yes, sway. What could possibly go wrong?
Everyone votes that story because they want to hear more. I don't know. That's the worst thing. Is meddling with polls and official polling results. So we're going to set this end date to be 4/13, right? 4/13 at no. We're going to want this to end on Monday, right?
Yes.
So it's going to end on Monday evening. We'll give everybody till evening because I do the poll results. I do the news late Monday night, like Tuesday morning for most of the world. So we can just say like 10 p.m. Pacific on the 10th. Okay. It will be closed then. So then... Again, if you're listening, watching live, you need to go vote on this as soon as it's ready with your story. And I will comment on... Okay, so it is... let us know what you want to hear about this for... should say next week's episode.
Yep.
Next week's episode on Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Check out our blog to see some of the other news stories we thought were interesting, but weren't juicy enough for us to talk about on the podcast. As always, let us know if something's dropped off that you want to hear about. The 4 stories this week. Why do I not have that? I should say stories below. I usually do, I think. Anyway, anywho.
Oh, I just realized in 2 weeks' time, so not the next show, but the show afterwards, I'll have been made president. How cool is that?
You're telling me
that
I'm going to have the president of the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors on this show?
Well, I might have been taken away. Secret Service might have stepped in and, but no, I just realized the AGM is on a week on Monday. It's on the 17th.
Wow.
And
okay.
Then, yes. Gosh.
So, the stories. Here we go. You ready for them?
Go on then.
Sound off in the chat about what you want to hear about. First one. Preschoolers prefer to learn from a competent robot rather than an incompetent human?
Or I can do this.
Well played. The next one. Inclusive public participation in transit decision-making.
I don't understand the title.
Inclusive public participation in transit decision-making. So you're looking at transit decision-making. This one, I'm not going to comment on this one because I don't want to sway negatively. Then the next one, the next story. Kickstarter exoskeleton claims it gives the wearer superhuman abilities.
Yeah, that. It'd be quite interesting to talk about that one. Not that I'm swaying people.
And then the last one, 3 ways AI chatbots are a security disaster.
No, wrong one. Which one?
I don't know. That one kind of fit.
Let's not do that one because we've done that one so much in every other episode that we do.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm going to post this then, and we are going to. This is live.
What's this button do? Well, this is you posting it. Post it.
All right. Let's see here. I'm just making sure everything's T's are crossed, I's are dotted. And of course, if you want to hear about anything else, there's always an other comment below. Okay. Post is live. Let me get the link for everybody. I'm going to post this in the chat for you all. Let's see here. Again, anyone, this is a Patreon link, but anyone can go and click on this link and vote in the poll. And I think it's across. So I think it's the chat has been pushed out across all channels. Maybe I'm not seeing it on LinkedIn, but I'll go ahead and post there.
Cool.
But you all need to go and vote on this now. So that way we at least have a couple of votes for next week. Because otherwise, we're going to have to choose ourselves. And it's not Nick and Barry choose the news. It's
unless they choose really bad ones, then I don't think we've ever done that. Have we ever had to? Because we choose the news.
We choose to choose the news. So yes, I do choose the stories that go in to choose the news. So it's coming through a filter. And I'm looking at it from a perspective of like, what have we talked about on the show? What haven't we talked about on the show? I threw the AI in there because we've talked about it before, but it's from a different perspective. It's security. I'm inspired by your conversation with Jenny. I just want to talk about security in so many different ways.
Yeah. Am I allowed to vote on this?
You should be.
Yeah.
It's open to all.
It is.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what my. No, it's not that. Is it that one? No.
So everyone, go ahead and give it a vote. There. Oh, we're getting some votes. That's great.
Oh, I'm gonna have to work out later. I can't remember what my Patreon sign-on is. That's not cool. Is it? I've got a new password manager, and so when you obviously take on a new password manager, then trying to get everything all synced up is a challenge.
Depends on which. It depends on which one that you.
Most of it is 99% of it is really good. I'm just having a couple of things where I've made it and not actually remembered to put it into it. Generally, I'm very happy with my
with your new one.
My new one, yes, very good.
Do you want to give a shout out? I guess.
I like to a Keeper.
Keeper, okay.
Keeper, and it's got really good. So it works on Google and it works on Edge, and you get an app, and so it works across everything really well. But also because I'm doing it for my team, then it not only allows us to have if I wanted to share a password with you, for example, but actually you shouldn't share passwords because that's just bad practice. It allows you to share the password, so I could share the instance of the password with you, so you could use it, but you wouldn't actually see what it was.
Right.
Which is very clever, and I like that. But it's also very good at just rating the passwords that you've got and highlighting when things aren't very secure, and actually when you come to a change password process, it actually walks you through it in a very, very clever way, and in a very good way, and better than the one that we had previously.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, I think so.
We've got 7 votes on this thing already.
Really? And I mean, I haven't logged in to sway this yet.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got 7 votes, I can't sway it anymore. I've lost.
No, you can certainly sway it. There's 2 of them that are tied right now. It's between the preschooler story and the Kickstarter exoskeleton.
Okay, that's cool.
This is amazing. We almost know what we're going to talk about next week on the show.
Maybe this is the way we need to do it. Is whilst we've got people as a captive audience, because they're hanging on our every word as we talk about it, and they can see as they vote. This is the way that they should run elections: is to have all the candidates on a screen, and as everybody votes and it live ticks, then getting their live reaction as they do it, and they're like going, yeah, oh, that'd be cool.
I think that would be so. I would love to do. You know what we could do?
It'd be like seeing maybe I don't know, like an ex-president in court and seeing his reaction live to things being read out to him. That would be incredible.
So while I don't necessarily agree that we should post it during the show or the post show, I think we should plug it for sure. We should definitely plug. We could do it in the pre-show if we did it the way in which we're talking about, because it will have gone live on Monday. Theoretically, this would have gone live on Monday. And we could then push out and say, hey, the poll is up. Let's go look at the stories, and we could do it right now. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Let's do that. There's some pre-show programming.
Because I was quite with the Kickstarter one. I saw that came up on my Kickstarter recommendation.
Oh yeah,
and and I was very much drawn into that.
I almost did it.
And still tempted.
It's over.
But it was. Did it make the? It must have made the target.
Oh, it way surpassed its target. Yeah. It hit.
I'm really intrigued by the mechanism for it.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, generally, I generally have pretty good success with Kickstarters. As in, I get what I think. There's only been one that screwed me.
Yeah.
And even that was. It was a shame. It was a game, and it would have been a really cool game if they'd managed to pull it off. But they were just. But in fact, my latest Kickstarter just came through the other day, and I played that. That was quite cool.
So I've had one Kickstarter that I ordered like 10 years ago. Okay, this is 2013.
Wow.
Okay, all right, 2013. I kickstarted a perambulator.
Okay.
For those unaware, a perambulator is a device in which you maneuver in physical space, and it translates those motions into a virtual environment. Okay, and the way that this one works specifically is that it's a platform. It has low friction, so as you're walking in one direction, you're kind of sliding on this platform, and there's a little a little waist strap that kind of holds you in place. So as you turn, you're just held in place. They just released this thing this year.
Oh, cool!
But I requested my money back years ago. It was like $700.
That would have been cool.
It would have been, but I have no space for it now. I'm glad I did it.
Well, that is true. fact, one of my is it? Oh, it is. In fact, one of the Kickstarters I got the other day was this, and so it's a really nice leather folio of being able to hold your stuff in, which I really like, but will never use because I just don't have any use for it anymore. But there we go.
I'm trying to see how much this thing made.
Oh, the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Made over $1 million.
Wow. I wonder what it must be like to be, because I've never been, I've never done a Kickstarter project as such. I wonder what it must be like to be, chuck your idea on there, because it's not, when Kickstarter first started, you could just chuck any old idea up there, and whereas now they're very properly crafted in terms of the way that they do their the advertising and all that sort of stuff. And but it must be that you took your idea up there thinking, oh, I want to make maybe $10,000, and then suddenly it starts going into, it doesn't just make that, but it properly takes off to
right,
$50,
something that's high in demand.
Yeah, I mean, there must be a level of just thinking they're going, oh, that sort of moment of, we've really got to do this, otherwise it's really bad.
Well, if you would have done it at 10,000, you would do it at $1 million, right? I think that's why they implement these limits on backing, because they only do as much as like they would need to, right? So
but when you get a limit from, so when you when you get an overfunding like some of these have, you move from a technical problem to a logistical problem. And you might be very happy in solving the technical problem, but the logistical problem of doing, 10, 20, 30 times more product than you realized that you're going to have to do gives you just a whole breadth of other issues.
That's why a lot of them build in now, hey, you may not get your stuff for like a year, like, or 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is. That's why they build a lot of that in there now.
Still amusing.
Yeah,
I haven't looked on Kickstarter in a while. I'm not
cool story. Yeah, let's kick around Kickstarter. What's going on? How do you even get to Kickstarter? Let's see here. Discover. Projects we love, trending. I don't know. What are you looking at there, Barry?
I'm just trying to log in.
Oh, okay, great. Discover. I'm gonna look at trending. There's a bunch of games that are trending. Okay, like board games.
Yeah, see, we tend to. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with board games, because some of them. So we play a lot of them at home, and friends and that are way more into them. I have, in fact, we've just got one that I got a Kickstarter called Distilled, which, funny enough, is all about brewing, and so I really like it, and so I played it for the first time when I was on holiday last week, and that's really good. But then I got one a couple of years ago. Unstable Unicorns, and that was a very, very expensive box. I went slightly overboard.
I'm just there's one on here that I'm not gonna say out loud. I'm gonna send to you.
Sorry, that's not funny.
It's a one-person musical.
I just read the title. Oh, now we'll actually realize it. Read it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's a catchy title. I would kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Bizarre. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a novel way of looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's some cool projects on here. What I want is like the physical stuff. I don't like the digital stuff is fine, but I'm like,
yeah, I don't tend to go for the digital stuff of this. I either want gadgets or I want or cool games.
Show me technology.
I'll say show me tech.
I don't want to see keyboards. I don't care about keyboards. Where's like apps, camera equipment, DIY electronics, fabrication tools, flight, gadgets, hardware, maker spaces, robots, software, sound, space exploration, wearables, web. I'm going to go with gadgets.
Somebody's making an electric coffee grinder with patented burrs and rotary knockers and an adjustable RPM with magnetic assembly. And he's 27,755% funded. Wow. It's made $5 million. Wow, that's something else. What else is there? Oh, there we go. A personal flight vehicle, electric and folding sky surfer, eVTOL. A compact electric flight vehicle which can fold down into your luggage and provide anyone with safe. Need more words.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah.
Take that to HFES with us this year. We'd be the hottest booth there. We're already the hottest booth at HFES.
Aren't we the only booth at HFES?
We're the only podcast booth at HFES. Oh, let me see this thing.
We're at a critical point where we solved the mystery and engineered the perfect flight vehicle, but now we need your help to expand our technology to the future and create a new world where personal flight vehicles are real. I could do this voiceover stuff.
You could.
Actually, that's quite cool. He's quite cool.
Is it like a what? Is it? Whoa! It's like a drone that you like surf on.
I was going to say it's basically a skateboarder who's put drone.
Yeah, I mean, like, what happens if you fall off into those blades, though?
Well, I'm less worried about the blades as I am the ground.
Safety, who cares? Well, yeah. How high it risks?
I press go back to. There we go. But they've done a desert speed run. 65 mile an hour. Oh, I need that in my life.
Control
so
F.
20-minute range time. So what's 65 mile an hour for 20 minutes? What range is that?
65 miles an hour for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
60 times 20.
It's 7 miles.
Oh wait, yeah. So 65 divided by.
It's going to be about 10 miles, isn't it? 10 miles would get me to work.
Wait, how do you do the math? Hang on, I'm now you got me all confused. Hang on, so you got 20 minutes. 20 minutes is a third of a.
It's a third. It's. It must be. No, it can't be.
A 21 mile range.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, because it's basically a mile a minute, and therefore, it's about 20 miles. So that get me to work
and back.
No.
Right?
No, I'd have to charge it and then get. And then.
So you control F pounds weight. I'm not seeing anything on here. I don't think this would support byte.
It would. Capacity all uplift is 500 pounds.
Oh, okay. Where do you see that?
It's about. So you scroll down to vehicle specifications. It's about a third of the way down, or just under a third of the way down the page. So you've got videos around. So you've got 2, 3. You go past desert speed run, and then you got vehicle specifications. There's a picture.
Oh, I see capacity. Okay. Yep. All uplift. Top speed. No limit on altitude? Are you crazy?
There really is a limit on altitude, as in you need air.
Yeah.
The upper atmosphere.
Are you telling me I could go to space with this thing?
Safety is just redundant. We just don't need it.
How much is this?
Oh, so it folds down into a small rolling travel case for easy travel, but that doesn't form part of it. Therefore, you can't take it. You can't take the box with you to where you're going. You get a shirt. You get what's a Pro Access card? No, you get an access.
How much is the thing?
I'm trying to find it. A year of gadgets. No, don't want that.
Full flight training. Okay.
Flight. No, I don't want to fly. I want full flight training.
Attempt to take flight and pilot this aircraft.
I don't want to take part.
No, I want the damn.
No,
thing.
I want it. Give me full.
Oh, you can pay $8,500 to join the team.
Or you can pay $10,000 to actually have one.
Oh, is that all?
Oh, so you can either pay $10,000 to have the kit. Oh, hold on a sec. This £10,000 pledge, $10,000 pledge is deposit, which counts towards the $54,000.
Whoa, that's an expensive drone.
Wow.
That's a really expensive drone.
And that's it in bits. Because if you want it complete, ready to go, you pay $10,000, and that is counts towards the $74,000.
And that's discounted from $89,000.
Wow,
this is more expensive than a car.
Have you seen how many they're actually doing of them? There's only two of
One
each,
left,
so they're only
two.
doing 4 of them. That's a so basically, are they join the team for 1? Actually, their number of rewards are tiny. They've only got in each thing. They've only got 7 or 8 of them.
I mean, look at this though. They are only asking for $28,000, and or $29,000 probably, but they're almost there based on the few people that want. That's pretty good. Anyway, hey, we're over time, so
we died into the work of Kickstart.
Super carried away. So I guess look out for a new poll on Monday. I'm going to try to do some automation behind the scenes. We'll see if I can get that working, but we will at least alter the production schedule a little bit to allow for some additional time and get some more of your social thoughts in there. But that's it for today. So thank you for joining us on this live edition of the Human Factors Show Grub.
We shall see you.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Have fun. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you,